welcome to everyone joining us for City Council's very first virtual hearing today. My name is Shayla Favor, and I serve as the chair of Council's Housing Committee. Today, the Housing Committee is hosting this hearing regarding the proposed creation of the Quarry, Grandview Crossing, and Northland Community Reinvestment Areas. This hearing will also address the expansion of the Linden Community Reinvestment Area. This evening, we will hear from the Director of Development, Michael Stevens, as well as from representatives from Thrive Companies, National Church Residences, and HomePort. These hearings are important to our work here at City Council as we strive to encourage an open policy-making process. We value inclusivity, information, and all opinions as we prepare to make these important decisions on behalf of each of our residents. Affordable housing is a topic of critical importance in our community, especially as we now embark upon solving the new challenges that we face in the wake of the public health pandemic. Housing stability is more important than ever, and our residents in every neighborhood need safe, quality, and affordable options to support their families. Today, we're specifically taking a look at Community Reinvestment Areas, or CRAs, as a tool to incentivize housing development and also encourage neighborhood revitalization and stabilization. Adopted by City Council in July of 2018, Columbus's residential incentive policy has made significant changes to support affordable, mixed-income neighborhoods in the city's post-1994 community reinvestment areas. Neighborhoods have been placed into one of three categories based on the following criteria: population growth, median household income growth, poverty rate, growth in median rent, housing vacancy rate, and mortgage foreclosure rate. The ordinance in consideration will create the Quarry, Grandview Crossing, and Northland Linden Community Reinvestment Areas and provide for real property exemptions for residentially zoned and used parcels within these areas. Additionally, the ordinance will provide for exemption from an increase in real property tax for construction of new housing, on the increase in valuation of building conversions from commercial use to residential use, and on the increased property taxes due to the renovation of existing single and multi-family housing units within the established boundaries. I'd now like to ask Director Stevens to talk a little bit more about the city's housing incentive policy, as well as the proposed legislation that will come before Council. Director Stevens?
Thank you, Chair Favor. I appreciate the opportunity to join you today and discuss the city's approach to using incentives for residential development. I want to acknowledge the team from development that has joined us as well today. These are our colleagues who work every day to help address the needs of our city when it comes to housing. The continued development of housing within our city and our region is critical to manage the growth that that's occurring in Central Ohio. I really want to emphasize we need to take a regional approach to housing and making sure we have mixed income neighborhoods throughout the whole region, because the housing problem and the affordability problem is not a City of Columbus problem, it's a regional problem. I'd also add we're happy to lead in that regional discussion to help find solutions to address affordability for all our residents. The underlying principle of our housing abatement policy is to foster private sector investment that builds mixed income neighborhoods throughout our city. Just to give you a quick background on the abatements we've done for housing projects before, we bucketed them into two categories. There's pre-1994 CRA abatement areas, and three of those exist. One is downtown, the other is Jeffrey, and the third is in the Brewery District. Councilmember, we've had discussions and are working with your office to move forward an amendment to that pre-94 CRA to include the affordability requirements that we capture in our post-1994 abatements. So I look forward to a future hearing when we discuss that further. Then we also have post-1994 abatement areas. Right now, 14 projects or areas currently exist. 4 fall under our market ready category, 8 fall under the ready for revitalization category, and 7 fall under the ready for opportunity. As you just shared, Councilmember, in 2018, Council approved and adopted the housing abatement policy. And that revised policy divides the post-1994 CRAs into the 3 categories I mentioned earlier. One, the market ready are those areas that meet no more than one of the distress criteria that you shared at the start, Chair Favor. The second is ready for revitalization, which has an area that meets 2 to 4 of the distress criteria. And the third is that ready for opportunity, where they're meeting areas that meet 5 to 6 of the distress criteria. To receive a housing abatement and to be designated a CRA in a market ready area, the developer has to make an affordability commitment of 10% of the units at 100% AMI and 10% of the units at 80% AMI. Market ready projects also need to have 5 stories or higher as a height requirement, and single family new construction projects are not eligible. However, single family rehab in these areas is eligible. We request that pilot payments are made to the schools in years 11 through 15. We also give the developer, if they choose, a buyout option that's available for the duration of the abatement. To date, no developer has taken up that opportunity, and really it buys out the buyout is the option to not do the affordability component. Like I said, to date, no one has done that. Everyone has made that 20% commitment in their market ready projects. With ready for revitalization projects, the affordability component is again 10% at 100% AMI, 10% at 80% AMI. However, there's no height requirement, and both single family new construction and rehab projects are eligible. And then finally, for the ready for opportunity areas, there are no requirements. We are really trying to encourage as much affordable as well as market rate housing to continue to see growth of our mixed income neighborhoods throughout the city. I can tell you that we're planning as a department and working with City Council to look at these categories and reevaluate them every 3 years. So our first reevaluation will occur in 2021. Once again, another public hearing I'm looking forward to participating in. And as we consider new CRA boundaries, we establish them based on census tracts. So the size of the boundary is really formed through a data-driven approach, and it includes smaller geographies that are more reflective of the neighborhood. Development has submitted to City Council 4 ordinances for consideration that would create 3 new housing tax abatement areas and expand 1 existing area. I know our development partners have joined us and will provide an overview of their projects. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I thank you again, Chair Favor, for inviting me here today.
Thank you, Director Stevens. If you could, I know that you outlined that we currently have 14 areas that fall within our CRA areas. The 3 categories being market ready, ready for revitalization, and ready for opportunity. Could you inform our listeners what areas are in each of the categories?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the 4 under market ready are the AC Humco site, 5th by Northwest, Kenny and Henderson, and Short North. The 8 under ready for revitalization includes Far East, Hilltop, Livingston and James, Milo Grogan, Near East, North Central, South Side, and Wyland Park. And the 2 in the ready for opportunity category are Franklinton and Linden.
Thank you. And I know that there's generally a lot of questions around tax abatements. Could you very quickly discuss just the abatement period for each of the categories?
Yes, all 3 categories have a 15-year abatement period. However, we require the market-ready abatements to make payment in lieu of taxes for years 11 through 15 to the Columbus City School District. So they are starting to recover that lost revenue at an earlier time period.
And I wanted to just confirm that to date, there has not been a developer that has opted out of the affordability requirements for the market ready or ready for revitalization categories.
That's correct. They have participated in providing affordable opportunities to really drive mixed income neighborhoods. And we appreciate that support we've gotten from the developers.
Thank you, Director. Now I'd like to introduce Steve Bollinger with Thrive Communities to talk about their project associated with the Quarry CRA. Steve, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Favor. I'm going to pull up our little presentation. Let me grab this one. Oop. So, is everybody able to see the screen with the highlighted project Quarry Trails? Great. Let me bring this up a little bit. So thank you again for having me. I'm here to present the Quarry Trails project. We are very excited about this opportunity. We've been starting a lot of the work on the development as it relates to the site work. And for everybody that's not familiar with the site, it is a 600-acre quarry project. Of that, we are currently in the midst of doing our environmental needs and brownfield remediation on about 70 acres of it. The other acreage is going to be given to the Metro Parks. Through this CRA, we're really creating this partnership, not only with the city, but also Metro Parks and ourselves, to be able to create a world-class park. A park that brings vibrancy and people's front doors to this park that's going to be more of an active adult playground of sorts rather than a passive park. There'll be kayak chutes and rock climbing and mountain biking and trails throughout all of it. And so with this partnership and what we're able to do through the CRA is really being able to take on a lot of the expenses that the parks would otherwise have to put in for infrastructure improvements and bathrooms and things of that nature. And by having this ability through the CRA to, really be able to put that infrastructure in place for them, to be able to have them use their money to activate this park and program it with amphitheaters and playgrounds for kids, and really bring a beacon more or less to central Ohio, and have it be a place that's unlike any place else in the country. We are committed to, in our first phase of 10% of our for rent property to be 100% AMI. Subsequent phases on all for rent projects will be the 10 and 10 approach. So the 80%, 10%, 80% AMI, and then 100% AMI for the remainder of the site. As I mentioned earlier, we are in the middle of conducting our, looking at the site and trying to get through all of our EPA and environmental needs to hopefully be able to start this project off here in the near future. The quarry itself was an operating quarry in the 1840s. And then, in the 1950s, 70s, it became an unregulated landfill once the quarry left the, I'll call it the southern portion. And I don't know if my mouse is, everybody's able to view where my mouse is, but to the north of the site, there's still an active 300-acre quarry that Shelley and Sands is operating out of. But the thing that's most exciting about this project is really that partnership with the city and Metro Parks and bringing this this incredible amenity to Central Ohio. And I think everybody's excited about. I think this is something where it's going to open the doors to a lot of people in the area, not only close by, but also outside to, have kids be able to learn about kayaking and rock climbing, and not feel as if they have to go out west. And it's really going to be something special. So this is more or less going into our phase one. It's a 26-acre site. Inside this 26 acres, we will be putting a community center, an office that's 43,000 square feet. We got 4 retail pads that are equal out to 16,000 square feet. And like I mentioned earlier, the 293 apartment units, 10% of which will be subsidized at 100% AMI. And then we have our 4 sale components in this site. I don't know with, obviously I'm happy to answer any questions, but these are the most up-to-date renderings that we've received. I think it does a great job of kind of presenting what our vision is for the project. And I think that it really brings excitement to what this project can turn out to be. So with that, I'll kind of open up to the floor and Chair Favor if you have any questions.
Thank you, Steve, for that presentation. And perhaps this question might be for Director Stevens. If we could speak specifically as to what category the Quarry CRA would fall under.
Yes, and I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Go ahead.
The difference between this and our policy, you'll see that we're doing 10% at 100% AMI. That was because back in 2017, when the Economic Development Agreement was approved by City Council, the policy was not in place. So Thrive companies worked with us to identify some affordability component to this, even though it wasn't a requirement per the abatement at the time. So when we did the Economic Development Agreement, we agreed to do the abatement, and they agreed to include some affordability in that project.
Thank you, Director. Steve, so the commitment moving forward will be for the additional phases to absolutely include 10% of the units at 80% AMI and 10% of the units at 100% AMI, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then just wanted to provide you with any additional opportunities you had to just highlight the unique features. I love the idea of the collaboration with our metro parks and providing a new product for individuals who are looking to have more green space connected to their living space. So that's a unique product for Columbus, Ohio. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that is the connectivity that we're hoping to bring, that this site might be able to bring. So currently the bike trail from downtown ends at 5th Avenue. We're working with the city on some different multimodal transportation studies and having, what are the connected points to where anybody that can get filtered into downtown would easily be able to jump on a bike trail and make their way to the park. Whether that's on a bike or walking, and the proximity of this site to the central core, it's more or less in the core. But if you're using downtown as the heart, you're only about 5 miles out. So it's an easy bike ride. It's a decent clip of a walk. But as a whole, we're really excited about the biking and the walking side of things, and then also talking with CODA. And what sort of public transportation, whether it's their new shuttles or bus routes. I know that they're going through a whole concept of what is the best route for different areas. So we're working hand in hand with them on that. And I think inside the park, it's just going to be, there's going to be year-round sledding hills that the park is looking to put in. There's going to be, like I mentioned, the rock wall, amphitheater, playground, mountain biking, pump track BMX. These are all things that people, fly miles and miles away or have to drive miles away in order to be able to take advantage. And this is going to be right outside our doors. So very exciting opportunity. Wouldn't be able to do it without the city and without the CRA and bring all these partners together. So very humbled by that for sure.
Thank you. Steve, can you talk very quickly about how important it is for the CRA to be created in an area that supports the Quarry trails, especially when it comes to the revitalization of brownfield areas?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's amazing, a little history on the brownfield side is for everybody that's not so familiar with it. We used to have the Clean Ohio program before Jobs Ohio. And so there were a lot of grants out there and being able to use those funds in order to clean up these sites. And what we're looking to do here is, Ohio and OWDA has been a great partner as it relates to low interest loans. But these sites are incredibly expensive in order to be able to get them up to a level of being able for people to live on and even recreate on. To be frank, I mean, it was amazing the things that we've seen as we've been pre-trenching and doing our deep dynamic compaction and doing all the environmental components, and just what you find underground in unregulated landfill is fascinating. So I think that's the biggest piece to all this, right? Like it's something where taking these brownfields and being able to clean them up, give them back to the city, back to a group like Metro Parks, and having them be able to program it is what the new urban development is all about. And it's really something that's, I think, special to the area. And I think that our river corridors are a place that have been forgotten about and can easily be taken back. And with these trails and a project like this and a few, Joel's going to speak on Grandview Crossing, and, finding that connectivity is the biggest thing, especially in Columbus, Ohio. The connectivity and working with CODA and all the progress that they've made has been really exciting. And we're obviously very excited about all these developments that are happening around the city. And I think the CRAs are really what puts us at a position to be able to do these.
Thank you, Steve. And then just quickly, the timeline for phase one and additional phases.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are, like I said, we're finishing up our environmental remediation. The hope is over the next month to 2 months for the phase one will be complete. We'll be able to submit for our no further action. Once we submit no further action, banks more or less will talk to us and be open to developing on the site, as the CNS is really a formality after approval on the NFA. And so we're hoping that by end of the year, we'll be able to start construction on some of the vertical components, if not the start of 2021. Obviously, with COVID and all the banks spending a lot of time on the PPP programs, which are far more important today than us trying to get this project started. But we're hoping that things will start opening up after this last round of stimulus. So goal is end of this year, beginning of next year, with tenants, whether it's on the for rent side or for sale side, being able to get moved in sometime by the end of 2021.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And that, Steve, you said something that I thought was important to acknowledge, and I'll direct this question to Director Stevens. If you could talk to the residents about the importance of balancing development in the wake of COVID-19, and just what our priorities are from the City of Columbus perspective to continue development during this time of crisis.
Thank you, Chair Favor. It's going to be important that we continue to position our community to have growth and prosperity. We've seen a lot of people impacted by either being furloughed or permanently laid off. So as we go to continue to attract jobs and investment into our community going forward, we need to have a housing stock and options that are attractive to all of our residents, and possibly those residents we can attract that will come with new businesses or can afford to live to those new businesses can see that we have affordable housing that can serve their employees. So as we approach this, the things that haven't changed in Columbus as affected by COVID is we still have a great workforce. We have a great location. We have a relatively lower cost of doing business. So we feel like we're positioned to come back quickly once we have the pandemic under control.
And not to jump in, Chair Favor, but to piggyback on Director Stevens, the thing that we've been super excited about in all the articles that we're reading is Columbus is set up to be a great outlet for the people that are living in New York City today and San Francisco and a lot of the larger cities. They're looking, I mean, Columbus is named in a number of articles of people coming back to the Midwest, or Columbus getting recognized for livability and for the opportunities that are here. So I think everybody deserves a round of applause for that one.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to introduce Joel Lilly with Thrive Communities and Wagenbrunner to discuss the project associated with the Grandview Crossing CRA. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Favor. I'm going to try to grab the screen here. Steve, do you need to give up the screen or?
I'm out, but then I think their side needs to present. Yeah, there it is.
There we go. Can you guys see my screen?
We can.
Great, thank you. So yeah, Steve touched on this a little bit on his presentation, our Grandview Crossing project. It's really just down the Dublin Road from the Quarry project, really situated between the Quarry and downtown, and right there at Dublin Road and Grandview Avenue. It's a 55-acre mixed-use development site, formerly unregulated landfill, and I think the city of Columbus put a stop to the dumping on that site in the early 70s, and we took over the property, acquired the property in 2012, and immediately started working on the remediation process. We went through and received a no further action letter last fall, and submitted that for a covenant not to sue, and actually received that just recently here in February. So we've got confirmation from the Ohio EPA that we've fully remediated the site and prepped it for development. Our site, we will eventually have a little over 100,000 square feet of retail, 129 key hotel, over 1,000 apartment units, with 20% of those being affordable housing on the site, and about 250,000 square feet of office. You can see some slides or renderings there on the display there, with showing our office building and the apartment buildings, as well as the 3.5-acre park that we will have as a part of our site. We are, pretty much completed the remediation and just started our underground utilities earlier this year, prepping all the different pads so that when we go vertical, we'll have all the utilities we need to support those developments. I'm going to switch to the second slide here. You can see that the current stage of the site, this was taken end of last year. You can see the pads being formed, all the dirt work that was put on. I think we delivered about 500,000 cubic yards of dirt over the years that we worked on the site, and we again took that process 4 or 5 years to clean up, and again got through the environmental process earlier this year, and are just ready to start our vertical construction here this year. And you can see a layout of the site. This is what we hope to develop over the next 4 to 5 years. We've got, you can see here that the site straddles City of Columbus on one side and City of Grandview on the other. The apartments and the office are on the City of Columbus portion of the site. The senior development that we plan in the hotel and some of the retail is on the Grandview side. On the City of Columbus side, you can see our 2 office buildings here in the middle, situated with the garage, structured parking to provide all the parking for the office and the residential. This residential portion right here is our first phase of development that we want to kick off and develop, and hope to have those tenants in by probably May, June of 2021, so just a little over a year from now. Our office is currently under construction, and we hope to have, it's currently spec financed, and we're hoping to have a tenant in there and be able to open up by spring of next year. The balance of that piece over here is our kind of later phases that we're going to develop over the years as we lease up the initial phase. And then we've got some retail components and additional residential units above the retail. And then we've got these additional residential units situated along the park. And again, you can't quite see it from this view, but all of this provides great viewing corridor of downtown. Some of you might be familiar with the site. We've got the Franklin County engineer adjacent to us here, and then just past it is the water treatment plant for the City of Columbus. And here's a few more slides of our development. You can see we've got the parks and a lot of greenways surrounding our site and throughout the buildings. To speak on, obviously our need for the CRA, and again, Steve touched on this with the Quarry project, but, you can see from the size of the site and the amount of effort that had to happen to make this ready for vertical development took a lot of funds and expenses. We were able to take advantage of the Clean Ohio funds that Steve touched on for this site that gets the initial remediation work, but the balance of the site, putting in all the underground utilities and the road and sidewalks and curbs and gutters throughout the site and all the amenities of the site require a lot of additional funds, which can be supported by the CRA and the abatement, and allows us to provide financing based on those abatements that we can have for our office and apartment units. So I will open it up to any questions, Chair Favor or Director Stevens.
Thank you, Joel, for that presentation. Director Stevens, I'll ask the same question that I did for the Quarry. Which category would this property fall into?
I believe it's ready. Not ready. It's the top category. And why am I blanking on it? I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. It's market ready.
Okay, and this one is a little unique in the sense that there are some instances where there's property that is in the city of Grandview, and then other areas that are in Columbus. Joel did a excellent job of highlighting the different whether it's the hotel or office space or apartments that would be in the city of Columbus. Can you talk about how the incentive policy captures, or I guess a better way to ask the question would be, how do we address situations like this? Does the incentive policy capture everything that's being built under this project, or specifically just what falls in the city of Columbus?
It captures specifically what falls in the city of Columbus. And I can tell you it was important for the city to have the office component as well as the housing piece because of the revenue that is generated through municipal income tax on the office side.
Thank you, Director. Joel, you mentioned that there would be, correct me if I'm wrong, 206 affordable units?
Correct. Yeah, we right now have planned over 1,000 units, roughly 1,030, and we would have 20%. So 10% would be at 100 AMI, and 10% would be at the 80 AMI. So roughly 103 in each category.
And I'm sorry, and the timeline of those units for folks to be able to access.
Yeah, we believe our first units will be coming online probably May, June of next year. And we will lease those up through 2022, and we hope to start our second phase by late 2021 or early 2022. So hopefully we can have product to deliver, and as we build it, those 20% affordable units will stay pro rata as the development gets built. So we will always have affordable units available as we go through our phases.
And for our listening audience, is not familiar with Thrive Communities, we've now seen 2 presentations where the development has occurred on brownfields. Why brownfields?
Well, for Thrive companies, you know, we specialize in brownfield. We aren't intimidated by brownfields. We feel like they're great opportunities. We like the urban areas. Everything we do here is really urban or semi-urban here in Columbus. You know, as badly contaminated as the site was at Grandview Crossing, it was in close proximity with the city of Grandview as well as the downtown urban area of the Columbus, and felt it was a great opportunity that was overshadowed by certainly the trees that were there prior, but then all the dumping prior, and we felt like it was a great opportunity to be able to provide a mixed-use development in an area that could take advantage of the retail and the affordable housing there. You know, the city of Grandview has a lot of nice units, not a lot of them are affordable, and we will buffer right up next to that area of town and provide a good portion of affordable units for it.
Thank you, Joe. Truly appreciate that presentation. Now I'd like to introduce Amy Rosenthal with National Church Residences to present the project associated with the Northland CRA. Amy, the floor is yours.
You see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Great,
Yes,
great.
we can.
Oh, well, good evening, Councilmember Favor. We appreciate the opportunity to present our project associated with the CRA being discussed this evening. I am Amy Rosenthal, Vice President of Affordable Housing for National Church Residences. I also want to thank Director Stevens for the opportunity to be here today, as well as the rest of the entire development team, Rita and Michelle and Hannah. We appreciate your support as we look to build more senior income restricted housing in Central Ohio. So an overview of what is in front of us today is the creation of the Northland CRA. And here are the boundaries of that particular census tract with Dublin, Grandviewville Road to the south, and Cleveland Avenue that follows through. Our particular site is on Maple Canyon, and our particular project is on Maple Canyon. So here is let's see, how can I? Oh, there we go. Okay. Our project is called Northland Gate, and the basics around the project: it's a new construction. It's a 9% low-income housing tax credit award and a project. So the majority of the funding will come through the low-income housing tax credit administered through the Ohio Housing Finance Agency. The project will be age restricted to 55 and up. National Church Residences is the nation's largest nonprofit provider of senior affordable housing. We are headquartered here in Franklin County, and so our footprint in Franklin County runs pretty deep, and we have over 100 properties in Ohio, and about 30 of those are in the city of Columbus. So this project contains 94 total units, a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units. All of the units will be income and rent restricted under that low income housing tax credit program, which means all of the income and rent will be restricted at or below 70% AMI. We have some even set asides for those at 30 and those at 50. The project is a 3-story mid-rise that sits on approximately 4 acres. It has a total construction cost of nearly $12 million, so $11.7 million construction cost. Our goal is to start construction this summer and have the building available for occupancy in the fall of 2021. this project has been in the works for several years, it's been in the works for almost 4.5 years. If for those of you familiar with the low-income housing tax credit program, it's a statewide program. It's a competition, and you're competing against other worthy projects across the state. And it took us several times to actually secure that tax credit award. And through that, we met several times with the local community, the Northland Community Council, the Sharonwood Civic, which the property sits in, the Forest Park Civic, which is across Columbus Granville Road, and of course the Business Association. So lots of community outreach. Here is the location of the project in the context of the overall community reinvestment area being proposed. Here is a footprint of National Church Residences portfolio in Northland. We own and operate a Center for Senior Health, an adult daycare facility. And we also have 130 units called Restoration Plaza that we manage. We don't own those particular projects, but we do manage it. And we have another 40 unit project on 161 as well. So you see the location of Northland Gate in context to nearby properties that National Church Residences already either operates or owns and or manages. We have a couple other projects in the pipeline too in this community. We just received an award from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development on another 76 units along the same corridor, and also have something proposed. But the focus today is on the Northland Gate project, which we hope to start construction on this summer. So that's really the high-level overview of who we are, what our project is in the context of the CRA today. So happy to answer any questions that anyone has at this time.
Thank you, Amy, for that presentation. Just a few questions. You highlighted that there would be a total of 94 units, all of which will be affordable. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And majority of those units will be at the 70% AMI category. And you noted that there would be some set-asides for folks who fall in the 50% to 30% category as well?
That's right. We'll have some 30s and 60s. I misspoke on the 50s. So we'll have 30s and 60s and 70%.
Actually, just yesterday, Columbus City Council held a town forum that was specific to our senior residents and how COVID-19 is and how they're being impacted. And one of the most important conversations is around housing. And so this project specifically really gets me excited because we have a new development that will be coming online that will be catered specifically towards our aging population. And so that age would be 55 and up?
That is correct.
Okay. Can you talk about any of the support services or unique characteristics of this development that speaks specifically to the senior community? So whether that would be a recreation center or on-site providers that could provide human services care?
Yeah, the property will have on-site management. So we'll have someone out there full-time from a management and a maintenance perspective. We also have a fitness center with equipment appropriate for this population that will be available to the residents. We also have 2 multimedia rooms. They're really flex community spaces that sometimes serve as libraries, sometimes serve as a place where residents can come together and do puzzles and do arts and crafts. And then we also have what we call a wellness suite. So right now, we don't have anybody specifically identified to come in and provide services, but the space is there. National Church Residences, we not only provide housing for seniors, but also supportive services. And so that space will be there to provide supportive services and really meet the needs of the seniors. And we'll use our population health management tool to really determine what the specific needs of those senior residents and bring in the correct partner. We partner with various service providers, including ourselves, to provide health and wellness services to our residents.
Wonderful. And you started your presentation off by acknowledging National Church Residents' receipt of the 9% low-income housing tax credit. How important was it for NCR to receive that tax credit and to be able to have this entire project be affordable?
Yeah, I mean, without that award, it makes up nearly 70% of the total development cost. So it's nearly impossible without that low-income housing tax credit award. Us being able, it is the only funding out there right now. The low-income housing tax credit is basically the only funding out there to build affordable housing. We partner with, we layer in other sources with city capital or city home dollars, but that low-income housing tax credit award is that beginning of the leverage to have it all roll into place and to build new units and serve senior residents of the Columbus community.
Thank you. And just very quickly, while we're on the subject of LIHTC, I wanted to toss this over to Director Stevens or anyone from the Department of Development that could speak to the projects that the City of Columbus has received 9% tax credits for in 2019, and if we know already what 2020 LIHTC awards look like for the City of Columbus.
Thank you, Chair Favor. I'm going to ask Deputy Director Hannah Jones and our Housing Administrator Rita Parise to share those details with you.
Thank you. This is Hannah Jones, and very frankly, I'm going to kick it to Rita because I know that she has it in her head versus me just speculating. So, Rita, if you're there, please weigh in.
Good evening, Councilmember Favor and attendees this evening. Thank you for the presentations on the projects that are coming forward and how they are addressing, among other things, our need for affordable housing. Relative to our efforts on the 2019 tax credit year, we had a pretty successful year all in. As a matter of fact, one of our projects, Creekside, which is permanent supportive housing for adults, has already closed and begun construction. Next one coming up, which you'll actually hear about in a few minutes, is the Atkinlon project with HomePort. We also have Jenkins Lofts, Northland Gate that are receiving city funding. In addition to that, I believe that there were a couple of projects that the city sent support letters on, but they did not need funding. Cassidy Village and I know there's one more, and I'm sorry, I just don't remember it right now. But so we had a very good year. We start our process with our local developers in October of each year. We bring them together for a meeting to talk through what our process is going to be, because we need to see their proposals in order to draft the best possible support letters and address all of the issues that the development department can address, including what the local plan says, whether there's a revitalization plan, what kind of zoning it has, are there any economic development investments in the vicinity, and we really bring multi-division efforts to that table in order to bring those support letters forward to allow the projects to be as successful as possible. Relative to 2020, we have not gotten the results yet. Councilmember Favor, you are 1 week early. So stay tuned, because next week we will have a much better idea.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rita. And fingers crossed that we have another productive and well-funded year as it relates to the LIHTC awards. Finally, I'd like to introduce Leah Evans with HomePort to present the project associated with the expansion of the Linden CRA. Leah, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Chair Favor. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and on behalf of our board and employees, just want to thank you and thank the city for your tremendous leadership. We work so closely with Director Stevens and his team, Hannah, Rita, and Hannah. We really appreciate the support. We could not do this work. So a little bit about HomePort. We are a 33-year-old locally based nonprofit which our whole mission is to create strong communities through the development of affordable housing. If we think back on our time here in Linden, we've been building in Linden for probably about 20 some odd years. We have a number of our single family lease option rental homes are in the Linden community, some of which we've sold, some of which we're on the verge of selling and are getting to that transition point. And so we've really just seen this community go through a lot of changes, and are very excited to be able to share with you a little information about Atkinlon Place and the opportunity to partner with the community in the neighborhood to drive forward the revitalization of Cleveland Avenue. This project, Atkinlon Place, is right adjacent to Atkinlon Park. One of the reasons we were very attracted to this site was that natural opportunity for recreation. It is just at the corner of Cleveland Avenue and Eddystone. It is currently, the site actually is occupied by two apartment buildings. There are 8 units each. They are actually vacant and have been vacant for over about 10 years. A duplex, which has one side was occupied at one point, but it's been vacant as well for quite a while, and then 2 vacant lots. So this is a main site that we will build a 45-unit, 3-story building for workforce housing, affordable housing. We too were recipients of a 2019 low-income housing tax credit award. So we're in the same boat as Amy. Amy did a great job introducing, so I won't have to go into all of the details of our LIHTC program, but we'll say that it is the driving force behind the long-term affordable housing that you see in our community. So it drives not just the development of the affordable housing, but with a 30-year compliance period, it maintains affordable housing long-term. And when you have owners like ourselves and National Church, you have the security to know that you have owners that are vested in keeping that asset affordable for many years to come, and not see that transition that could very naturally come from other types of properties whereby the neighborhood starts to get better, the rents pick up, the rents go up. And so with owners like us, you do have that opportunity for it to be long-term affordable. At Atkinlon, we will have a mix of incomes. We also will be going up to actually 80% of the area median income with this property. This property will only have 1 and 2 bedroom units located here. We were very excited. It took a lot of work, and I will say again that I want to applaud the work of your peer, Councilmember Tyson, Director Carla Williams Scott with neighborhoods, Nick, former Director Shoney, who Director Stevens has taken his place, but all of the team at development, neighborhoods, and the city worked with us, because during the process of community feedback on this project, we heard a lot from the Northland neighbors. We heard a lot about what they liked, what they didn't like, what they liked about what was going on in general in the area, and what they wanted to see for their community. And I think the One Linden plan really allowed people to have a voice and to start to crystallize what their ideas were about how the community would change and transform going forward. And I think, again, it wasn't an easy conversation, but we got to a point where we were able to revise some of our plans, change some of the setbacks, and soften some of the building lines in order to see that we were able to get acceptance of our plan when we came back through for rezoning. And so I appreciate the conversation. Sometimes there's a lot of friction during these conversations, particularly around density and parking and affordable housing. But we appreciate every person that comes out for those meetings and has those conversations with us. It forces us always to be looking at our product and look at what we're doing as developers, and to be better and to be more communicative. So one of the things that's unique about this project is we recognize that this is a tight site. It's about an acre, and we're putting about a 46,000 square foot building on an acre. And so to get three bedroom units, which we're very committed to building. It's right now in our marketplace. A lot of developments that are coming online that are multifamily are not building 3 bedrooms. It's just not as cost effective. You're going to see studios, efficiencies, 1s, 2s, maybe. So to get that 3 product for families. We're actually going to be building single family homes. I kind of zoomed out so you can get a sense. Our main building site is at Cleveland and Eddystone, and then where you see the yellow pins are where we'll build 5 single family homes. That'll be 3-bedroom, either 1.5 or 2-bath homes that will be affordable at 50 to 60% of area median income. That is a very popular product that really needs to stay in the marketplace. A lot of families, we tend to have a lot of our families, they need those additional bedrooms. And so we're very pleased to be able to bring some more of that product online, as well as to do infill housing on some vacant lots that were either owned by COSIC or the City of Columbus Land Redevelopment Office. So we're really pleased to add that element to this project and take that redevelopment and revitalization into some of the side streets off of the Cleveland Avenue and Westerville corridor. Our project, in terms of, you asked Amy a little bit about kind of some of the amenities, and so I'll just share with you that our property will have a fitness room, it will have a business center for the tenants, it will have a community room, and it will have a leasing office for on-site property management. I shared with you that the park was really one of the attractions to the site. The other thing was we were really interested in being on the CMAX corridor. That is such a valuable asset to be able to bring down the cost out of pocket for our residents, to have the alternative to live in a transit corridor that is well served. And so we're excited to be on the CMAX line and to see the value that brings to our residents. We'll actually be doing some follow-up surveys with them as this property comes online to find out how many of them actually are using public transportation and don't have their own vehicles. So look forward to sharing that feedback as we get into this project. We really have been focused on and have been very proud to say that our buildings are being built at high green standards for green building practices. Our property in Milo Grogan, which is the our last development on the City of Columbus, Milo Grogan Homes, we achieved LEED Gold on all of those single family homes. And so we're looking to achieve at least LEED Silver on this building as well, and are very excited to build that into our development. What that does is it protects the asset, but it also protects the resident and puts them into housing that has been certified to have low, the paint, the materials, the carpet, the cabinetry are low emissions. We have higher installation ratings that manages their utility costs. It really is a better, safer environment for the resident, as well as being an asset for a benefit to the asset. In total, we're expecting to spend about $11.3 million, a little over $7 million of that directly just in the construction costs. And then, of course, there will be related site costs and other costs related to the development of the project. But we're really excited to have such a visible building on Cleveland Avenue to build on the work that our partners at areas are in the area are already doing, like at New Salem Church, who has been doing a lot of work on community development. We know, Columbus Next Gen has been very dug in the Linden area. We see the activity and want to build upon that and take that forward as a partner in the community. We'll also be offering at this site service coordination. All of our properties have dedicated service coordinators that do provide service connection to health, transportation, employment, childcare. We will have on-site out of school time programming. We also have an MOU with Celebrate One. So we're very excited to work with them to provide those services to any of our residents that are pregnant or have young children at home that would benefit from their services as well. So we look at it very holistically and think that as we go forward, this project will be an example of how to build in a denser environment. So this is a much denser footprint than we normally do, but also will be a testament to how do you get engaged in a conversation with the community to get to an end that really can be celebrated as you go forward. So with that, I will say I will open it up for any questions for me. And again, just want to thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about our HomePort story. I did list our partners there just again, so you see Berardi, that's been in business for over 40 years. We've been doing business with them for about 30. Wallach, the same thing. Gorsuch, again, a 40-year-old business. We really look for those that are best in class in the community and in their business space to partner with, so that we can be assured of the outcome that we're going to have from any one of our projects.
Thank you, Leah, for that presentation. I'm going to direct this question to Director Stevens, because what we're talking about for the Atkinlon project is actually an expansion of a current CRA that's already on the books. Is that correct?
That is correct. So when this project was brought, when we started talking to HomePort about it and looking at the ability to make this type of financial incentive, we looked at whether we wanted to create a new CRA or extend the existing boundaries that currently that we had, and we decided just to extend those boundaries to make sure to capture this project.
So the Linden area already has a CRA. To what extent are the boundaries being extended?
Let me pull up my map and I will tell you. Bear with me. It's not one of the documents I had up. We had a great map with a hand-drawn dotted line, and if I could find it, I would tell it. Bear with me.
Chair Favor, can I just share one more thing that came to my mind, if that's okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One of the things that I think is really critical, and Amy touched on this a little bit, is that it costs what it costs to build something. So let's say you build a building and it costs, $10 million. Whether I rent it for, $500 a month, or I rent a unit for $5,000 a month, it still, in a lot of ways, costs what it costs. So one of the interventions, as we call them, that help be able to keep things affordable long term is incentive tools like tax abatement. Yes, the equity we get from tax credits that we develop with is significant, but to be able to ensure long-term affordability, that tax abatement and being able to reduce that operating expense to the property is tremendously beneficial to being able to keep the quality of housing long-term as well as the affordability.
Leah, thank you for filling some of the dead time for me. I appreciate it. The existing boundary ends at Weber Road, and if I could get presenter mode, I'll share this. It ends at Weber Road, and now it goes up to Oakland Park as the northern boundary. The southern boundaries are down by Fifth Avenue. It's on the west side, I-71 is the boundary, and then it jogs out. It runs parallel of Joyce, but it jogs in and out, so it's not all along Joyce, and I will now share that with you. There is the new, so you'll see the dotted line of the existing on Weber Road. It now extends north into Oakland Park is the new boundary.
Thank you, Director. And while I still have you on the hot mic, so I think it's important to underscore the fact that these CRAs, they're not created in a vacuum and to only support one development or one project. That individuals, if they are engaging in development or rehab work, can take advantage of the city's incentive policy. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that's a great point. So not only are we using this as a strategic investment tool to encourage new housing stock being built in Columbus, we also wanted to offer the opportunity, especially in those ready for revitalization and areas, that folks who are currently living there who want to make an investment in their property, they would get the same benefit as those new residents who are coming in and buying into it.
Thank you, Director. And Leah, I know that, thank you for acknowledging the process of community input. And I'm wondering if you can just talk briefly about what the project, how the project changed. So the project that was originally presented to community members versus what we're seeing here today.
So I think that in terms of style, there wasn't a lot of room to change a lot on the site. So the site itself is similar, is a lot the same. What I think we were able to do is to hear that feedback and to do things like add that walkway that people were concerned about access to the park. And so we added a pathway across the south side of our site where we can have a dedicated way for people to access the park. We had a great and very iterative conversation about concerns people had about the park and water and how water was being rainwater, stormwater was being managed off the park. Well, we had our civil engineer there to talk about how water would be stored on our site and how it actually could help mitigate some of the water coming off the park. So as we got more into what some of the concerns were, again, very legitimate concerns about things like parking. But that's where we were able to talk about there is a trend now towards people having less vehicles per home. There was an expectation that, oh, well, everybody has 2 cars in any given house. That's not really what we see or experience at our properties. And again, when you have a transit-oriented design, you tend to see people have less vehicles. So was able to, again, to have a conversation with the community about what some of their concerns were and how they were reflective of the design standards that they normally would like to see. Is it about the materials? So we had a good conversation about what do you want to see in a building? What do you want it to look like? How can we change that? And so we did the outside, actually the facing of the outside looks very different than the original version based on some of that feedback. The community definitely wants to see the quality of materials that they see being built in other parts of the city. And so we changed some of the exteriors to respond to that. And we talked to them about more our operational expectations. They felt like when they see the site today, they tend to see loitering or trash or things like that. Well, we were able to have a conversation about operational expectations and what you can expect from us as your neighbor, and what you can do when you have a concern with something you see on the property as your neighbor. And I think, again, that gave them a lot more comfort as to who was coming into their neighborhood and who they could talk to if they had concerns, and that we were really going to be a partner with them as they go forward. It wouldn't be somewhere where they felt like they, something got dropped down in the middle of the community and they had no further contact or communication with the development team or the owner. And so I think that helped a lot. And then there were a lot of questions about things like traffic. And how will it be managed? How will foot traffic be managed? Will people want to run across Cleveland Avenue? And what can we do about that? So again, I applaud and thank the city tremendously for being present with us during those conversations, sending representatives from public safety and public service to be part of community meetings and talk directly to residents. And so we all can solve those concerns. And so again, I think it was, and the things we did there, we were able to carry forward into, other projects as we continue to have conversations in other neighborhoods. And I would just, again, note that you made a good point about the area in and of itself is not specific to any one project. And so what we've seen, like on the Near East Side or in Milo, as these areas have been established and new investment has come in, you see reciprocal investment in other properties, which again was a concern the residents had, and neighbors in that Northland Linden area had concerns about existing multifamily buildings and how they felt like they were currently being maintained. These tools can be, again, the stimulus to get some of that work done, to get people more engaged with reinvesting in their property.
Thank you so much, Leah. If I don't think there's any additional questions, and I would like to inform our listening audience that any resident who wanted to provide public testimony could have submitted a slip, a statement to our office or directly to City Council to provide testimony in regards to any of the 4 areas that we've discussed this evening. And we did not receive any requests for public testimony. And so with that, I will kick it off one last time with a hot mic to Director Stevens to provide any closing statements, and then I'll just have a final remark to close us out. Director?
Great. Thank you again, Chair Favor, for hosting this and letting us come and talk about these important investments that we're making through these CRA abatement areas to encourage mixed income housing across all our neighborhoods in Columbus. So thank you, and I look forward to our ongoing discussion. I know we will have more of these opportunities to share this information with the public.
Thank you, Director, and definitely want to give a warm thank you to the Department of Development and our administrators who have joined us tonight, and all of our guests who have also presented. We truly appreciate your time, as well as all of the work that's being done on these projects. This will now conclude our hearing. Remember to be safe and to mask up Columbus. Have a wonderful evening.